All right, so on the first question, it says circle the solutions for this problem. So there's two ways you could do it. You could take this number and plug it in. So if I were to plug 0 in, for example, I'd have 3 times 0 squared plus 7 times 0 plus 5. Does that equal 0 squared plus 9? So when I look at that, the 0 stuff goes away. I get 5 equals 9. Well, that's not true, so I know that that couldn't work. So if I plugged in, like example, -4, I'd say 3 times -4 squared plus 7 times -4 plus 5. Does that equal -4 squared plus 9? So -4 squared is 16 times 3 is 48 minus 28 plus 5. 48 minus 28 is 20 plus 5 is 25. -4 squared is 16 plus 9 is 25. So 25 equals 25. So C did work. You need to try the other ones. So you can do it that way, or you can solve and just find out what the solutions are. So I can minus the x squared and minus the 9. So minus x squared minus 9. And I get that 2x squared plus 7x minus 4 equals 0. So now if I want to try to factor that, I put 2x squared in, -4. So it has to multiply be -8 and add to be +7. So that's -1 and +8. So -x, +8x. Those are divisible by 2. That's a 1. That's a -1. That's 4. So it factors to be 2x minus 1, x plus 4. Once you get it factored, you put each of those factors equal to 0. So 2x minus 1 equals 0. X plus 4 equals 0. Minus the 4, minus the 4. X equals -4. Add the 1 over. 2x equals 1. Divide it by 2. X equals 1/2. So the solutions, which we already knew that x equals -4 is 1, and x equals 1/2. Those are the ones that work. You circle them, and that's going to be the first problem on your test. All right, question number 2 on your pretest says to solve. So I distribute the 4 into both of those. So I get 4x plus 12 minus 3 equals 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times -3 is -6x minus 4. So I combine like terms. 12 minus 3 is 9. So 4x plus 9. 8 minus 4 is 4 minus 6x. So then I add the 6x over to this side. So when we add the 6x, we get 10x. And then we're going to get rid of the 9, so I minus the 9 over. So that makes -5. Divide it by 10, and x equals -1/2. And number 3, the first thing you should realize is that x cannot equal 1/5. If it did, it would make this denominator equal 0. And so that's our restriction. We know that x cannot equal 1/5, or else it causes problems. So if we get 1/5, we know there's no solution. So I'm going to multiply this side by 5x minus 1, and multiply this side by the top by 5x minus 1, and multiply this side by 4. So now I have common denominators, and I know that once we get common denominators, we can scratch these off. So now I distribute the 4 on the top, so that's 12x minus 8. Distribute the 3, that's 15x minus 3. So now I get the x's onto one side, so minus the 12x minus the 12x. And I'm going to add the 3 to the other side. So I have -5 equals 3x. Divide it by 3, and x equals -5/3. So now question number 4. The first thing I'm going to do is factor this. So 2x squared, -20, that makes -40x squared. So what multiplies be -40 and adds to be -3? 8 and 5, if that's negative 8, that makes negative 3. So negative 8x and 5x. So the top row is divisible by 2x. And so 2 times negative 4 makes negative 8, x times 5. So this factors to be 2x plus 5x minus 4. Again, on most of these kinds of problems, you could try the other denominators that are on the other side and see if they work. You could be like, oh, what multiplies by 2x squared? Well, looks like we have a 2x and an x, and this one says plus 5, and 5 times 4 makes 20, so maybe if I try this, does it work? And you can try this out without even doing what we just did and see, oh, 2 times 4 makes negative 8, plus 5 makes negative 3, so yeah, that works. And so that's just another way to help you get your factors. So I see that this one, to have common denominators, needs an x minus 4, and this one needs a 2x plus 5. And looking at the denominator right now, I also have my restrictions. I know that x cannot equal 4, and x cannot equal negative 5 halves. So I put each of those equal to 0. But now that I've done that, I can get rid of my denominator. Just work with my numerator. So 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times 5 is 15. Plus 8x minus 32 equals 11. And so now we just combine like terms. 6 and 8 makes 14x. 15 minus 32 makes minus 17 equals 11. Add the 17 over. 14x equals 28. Divide it by 14, and x equals 2. And that's not one of my restricted values, so I'm good. So number 5, I tried to factor it. 6 times 4 is 24, but that doesn't make negative 4. 8 and 3. So it doesn't factor, so I plug it into the quadratic formula. So negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So now I look inside the square root. I can type it in my calculator if I want. 4 squared is 16. 4 times 24 is 96. So I get 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 80 all over 2. If it says real solutions, you'd say there are no real solutions, but we're just after all solutions, so you're going to break it down. 8 and 10, 4 and 2, 2 and 5, 2 and 2. So there's a pair of 2's and there's a pair of 2's. So they come out. So here's the 2 pairs that came out. 2 times 2 is 4. The negative comes out as an I. The 5 stays in, and that's a 2. Since these are all divisible by 2, I can divide all of these by 2. So that's 2 plus or minus 2i square roots of 5. On number 6, it says that it equals 0. I don't have a middle number, so I can just add 25 to each side. So I have 16x squared equals 25. And now you have options. You can square root it from here, or you can divide by 16 first. Either way, it's fine. X squared equals 25 divided by 16. So if I square root now, that gets rid of the squared. And the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 16 is 4. And remember to put your plus and minus, because it could have been a negative 5/4 times a negative 5/4 to give you 25/16. Whatever the power is, that's how many answers you should have. So if it's a 2 or a 3 or a 4, that's how many answers you should have. That's an easy way. The plus minus counts as 2 because one's positive and one's negative. All right, number 7, there's 2 different ways that I'll show you. One way is to do u substitution. So I let u equal x squared. So then this is u squared minus 5u plus 4 equals 0. This factors. So this will factor. U times U is U squared. -4 times -1 makes +4 and adds to be -5. So I get that U equals 4 and U equals 1. Remember, that's what U equals. We want to solve for X, so I replace U with X squared. So then I take the square root. X equals ±2. Take the square root of each of those, and X equals ±1. 2 answers here with the plus minus, 2 answers here, makes a total of 4 answers. The other way is to just take this and factor it right at the beginning and say that this is x squared minus 4, x squared minus 1 equals 0. I put each of those equal to 0. And then I solve, I get x squared equals 4, x squared equals 1. And then I'm do the same point as I got to down here where I'd square root these and get ±2 and ±1. So if you can see it this way, that's fine. If not, you can use the U substitution, whatever way makes you happy.